Yo. Okay. Hi, everyone. I've never done anything like this before. But excuse me. I always post these sort of things on Instagram, and by these sort of things I mean stuff I'm working on, stuff that I'm recording, stuff that I've been mixing, and the thing is with that, it's great and everything, but you can't hear it because it's coming through an iPhone speaker, and Instagram stories are only like 20 seconds long. So I thought I'd do this because, in all honesty, I'm pretty bored. And also I just thought it'd be pretty fun. Now, disclaimer, I'm not actually sure I'm allowed to show you this session because these are files from a band called Funeral for a Motherfucking Friend, who are awesome and amazing. And I got the files from a very, very nice bloke called Ramesh, who runs a online community called The Control Room. So shout out Rom. Thanks for sending me these files, man. And if you want to join, which I'd highly recommend, it's like $5.99 a month. It's amazing. You get, files from bands like Funeral for a Friend. You get to mix them yourself and practice. And there's all kinds of like sick producers and engineers in there. I think the best example I can think of, there was one fella who was doing he was recording a cover of an Ed Sheeran tune, and he made a post, and he posted this thing saying, yeah, I'm just like really struggling with this vocal chain. Like, I don't really know what to do. Has anyone got any tips? And Joe Rubel, who produced that song by Ed Sheeran that he was covering, just got straight in there in the comment section and posted a screenshot of his total vocal chain. Like, how sick is that? That's like worth it. Well, it's priceless. It's just priceless information, because this is the kind of thing that, it's the mystery. It gets rid of all the mystery, and that's just one anecdote. That's one thing that's happened. So yeah, I would 100% recommend doing that. And so yeah, I do apologize if I'm not allowed to do this. I will take it down, but hopefully it's all right. Okay, so so this is a song called Serpents in Solitude by Funeral for a Friend. It's fucking amazing because, well, it was recorded really, really well by Rom. He did an amazing job. And also, I've been a huge fan of Funeral for a Friend for so long. They were one of my favorite bands when I was a teenager, before I even started getting into mixing or anything. So to have their audio and mix it is it's reliving my teenage dreams. It's so much fun. So yeah, this video, what I'm going to focus on is just the drums, because I record a lot of drums here at my studio, and a lot of people ask me, like, how do you process things and how do you mix them and blah, blah, blah. So I thought I'd just show you what I've done. So yeah, don't take this as gospel, because I'm actually pretty shit at mixing. But I think it sounds pretty good. I was quite happy with it. But like I said, most of the work was already done because the source material is amazing. So all right, let's get into it. Okay. So we've got 4 kick mics. Kick in, which I don't know what it is. It sounds like a D6 or something. We've got a Beta 91, which is a great mic. I love using these things. I'm just going to take this gate off. Hang on. Okay. Bit of slap. Got a sub kick. Sounds like you'd expect. And a front of kick mic. I think this one's actually like clipping and distorting, if I remember correctly. Oh no. No, it's pretty clean. Yeah, the snare top and bottom is pretty standard. Interesting about this, excuse me, we've got tom top and tom bottom mics, which is something that I've actually never done before. But yeah, we've got those for the rack, mid and floor here. Hats, overheads, some spot mics for like chinas and rides and all that kind of stuff. And then we've got some room mics down here. So I'll show you how my mix is sounding so far. I'll skip to the good bit. Okay, here we go. All right. Sounds pretty rad. I love the sound of these drums. So let's get into it. So the way I mix this is basically top down. So I start here. I'll talk about my bussing as well. So all my kick mics are route to a kick bus. Snares to a snare bus. And then I did the same for each tom because there was a top and bottom mic. It's probably not the most efficient way to do it, but whatever. And so, yeah, all my toms. So yeah, top and bottom routed to a rack tom bus. Same for the mid and floor. All those buses here, they go to this bus here. And then what I do as well, I'm not sure if this is normal or not, but I route all of my close mics to a close bus because I usually like to do some processing here. So if I bring up the mixer window. So yeah, kick mics, kick, snare, snare. All the toms go to toms, blah, blah, blah. And then I get these close mic bus. And this sounds like this. Oh, no, I'm lying. Sorry. I'm running Pro Tools and Logic at the same time here. So my computer's struggling a little bit. Yeah, so I've got a bus there. And then I do the same with overheads and rooms, etc. And that all runs to this bus here. This is called, oh, fucking hell, my computer's struggling. A drums bus here. I'm also running some other stuff going on here, but I'll get to that in a minute. So yeah, when I started this mix, basically, I did all my levels and panning, and then I start working on the drum bus. The reason why I do this is because, you know, I might do some EQ here that affects the whole mix, and it might mean that I don't necessarily have to EQ like the top of the snare, for example. Like if I want a really bright snare, I can actually just do that here, and I can brighten the cymbals and everything at the same time. I think that's like a pretty normal way of doing things. So yeah, that's the reason why I do it. And it also just, yeah, it's mainly just makes you do less. I mean, as you can see on these channels, I'm not doing a lot at all, really. So yeah, drum bus. Let me get rid of all these first. All these plugins. Let's turn those off. Cool. Rooms as well. Okay. So what have I got? Got a FabFilter Pro Q. SSL bus guy. Decapitator. A distressor. And then a Marg EQ. So I'll explain what I'm doing on each of them first. Okay, so this is the drum bus without any processing whatsoever, just levels and panning. I mean, it sounds good. It sounds great already as it is. So first in the chain, I've got this FabFilter Pro Q here. Now, the reason why I do this is just because basically on this particular recording, there's quite a lot of flabbiness going on, and I don't want all that low frequency energy to fuck with my compression. So if I just solo this out here, it's barely audible, but it is there. Wi-Fi analyzer. Sorry. First time doing this, guys. I'm a bit of a newbie. Okay. Yeah, so there's all this stuff here beneath 30 hertz that, to be honest, no one's going to be able to hear unless it's on a massive system. And even then, it's probably going to be high passed by the front of house engineer anyway. So there's just no point keeping that there. And like I said, it's just going to fuck with my compressor, which is next in the chain. So I only want it to be compressing everything above 40 hertz. That's got a bit of a slope on it. So it's cutting from 50 or actually 60 really. But when it gets to 30, it really drops off by like 10 or 12 dB. So actually, no, that's like 6. But it's enough. So yeah, that's the reason why I do that. Second in the chain, SSL bus compressor. Currently doing nothing. It's probably because I've got all my plugins turned off over here. But usually I just have this in the chain just for a bit of that famous glue. And yeah, it's only reducing by maximum 2 dB, maybe 1. It's usually that this thing is usually sort of floating around here. I've got a really quick attack and a slow release. The reason for that is because I just want it to clip off those first transients and all that low frequency energy. I just want it to crush it a little bit, and it's also just going to bring the higher frequencies, the lower frequencies up to match the higher ones as well. So it's going to squash the drums together a little bit. I'll play it with and without now so you can hear it for yourself. So this is with and without. It's very, very subtle, but I think once all these plugins are on and it's in the mix, it sort of compounds. The way I sort of approach compression is doing a little with a lot rather than a lot with a little, especially on bus processing. Okay, next, Decapitator. I fucking love this thing. Again, I'm not doing much with this thing here at all. This is engaged. To my ear, it actually makes it a little bit brighter. And you can mess around with these different settings here, but I actually prefer this E one. I don't know why. But again, I'm using this just to compress the signal a little bit and add more glue and sort of cohesion to the drums. It's a fancy word, isn't it? Cohesion. And yeah, like I said, doing a little with a lot. Next, I imagine this distress is probably going to be, fast as attack, very quick release. Again, this is just going to be chopping some transients off, helping to add some cohesion and glue. Yeah. Okay, so here's without. And with. It's giving it some sustain as well. You can hear the kick drum come out a little bit. Let's try that once more without. Yeah, you can hear the room mics coming up with that. It's quite cool. So yeah, the idea with this is to just really just smash the front end of the drums and just bring out that space after the stick hits or the beater hits, just to bring up that extra little bit after all the sustain. Again, doing a little with a lot. Finally, on the drum bus, I've got this Marg EQ. Now, a friend of mine, Adam Rust, told me to get this, and I'm so glad he told me to demo it because I ended up buying it the same day, which usually happens with the UAD plugins. But the main reason why I wanted to buy this thing is because I had, excuse me, I had the Slate bundle, and I was using the Revival, the Exciter, just to get a little bit of extra top end. But I found it was really kind of boring sounding, and I don't know if that's because I've had it for so long, or if it did actually sound boring. I think it was probably a bit of both. And the great thing about this EQ is you can boost 40k, which is mental. And so I basically just use this to brighten everything. You'll probably find it a lot throughout this session. So yeah, here it is without. And with. So yeah, you can really hear it just bring out that top end. And it's just great to get that sort of stick attack from cymbals. So yeah, but that's pretty much the bus processing. So this is where I started before I started doing any channel processing. Without the plugins. So you see all those small changes add up to something quite significant. And for me, this is what top-down mixing and bus processing is all about. It's just about doing tiny changes, but in conjunction with one another, it's quite significant. Let's hear that one more time. The drums just instantly sound way more exciting. They sound brighter. There's more attack. Well, I suppose technically there isn't, but there's more sustain. I don't know. It just sounds more exciting. I can't tell you what it's doing, but it sounds good. I'm not a fucking wizard. I'm an idiot. Okay, let's go to channel processing. Kick. Got some interesting stuff going on here. Let's have a look. Okay, I've got a Pro Q. What am I doing? Pro Q. I've got a gate. SPL transient designer. Classic Logic EQ. And an API 550. Okay, let's start with the Pro Q. So again, here, I'm very wary of those low frequencies smashing that bus compressor. So I've cut again here up to 40 hertz this time. I'm just getting rid of all that because no one needs to hear it, man. And it's also going to save some space for the bass as well later on. Pulling out, this is probably a horrible note. This is all just pulling out frequencies that I don't like the sound of. I pull 500 hertz out of absolutely everything, so that doesn't surprise me. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that. And I thought this kick was a bit too bright, so I just tamed 5K a little bit. Yeah, it's nearly 5K. Next up, Pro G. This is just a gate. The reason why I use this is because if you listen to the kick, there's a bit of a going on after the initial attack. And I wanted to keep some sustain, but I didn't want it all there. So I didn't completely smash the gate and get rid of everything. I just reduced everything by about 14 or dB or so. Yeah, I just don't want all that low frequency stuff there, so it just helps. And it cuts out some of the rest of the drums as well. SPL Transient Designer, everyone should go and buy this plugin. It's dope. You can even use it as a gate if you want. I'll show you what I mean now. So with this, it does what it says on the tin. It gives you more or less attack and more or less sustain. The cool thing is, if we drop down the sustain, sounds like a gate, which is great. And you don't get any artifacts that you get with a gate. So it can be useful for that as well. But in this scenario, I think I just wanted a bit more slap. So yeah, I boosted the attack. Let's listen to it with and without. Yeah, that's cool. I love it. Channel EQ. Again, I think this is just more getting rid of horrible notes. I think after I boosted the attack on this transient designer, it brought out some more of these horrible notes. So I was just pulling out odd frequencies that I don't like there. Last in the chain, API 550, boosting 50 hertz. Yeah, and with a not a shelf, one of these, whatever it's called. Cool. All right, let's get on to the snare. Another great thing about receiving stems from Ramesh is he records on a console. So you'll notice that most of my faders are actually at unity or 0. And so you get the files, you put everything at 0 and it sounds mixed already. So you don't really have to set levels, which is awesome. But it's good for that reason as well. But the main reason why I like it is it actually gives you some sort of insight into what that engineer is trying to achieve with their levels and why they've set things at a certain level and why they balance things in a certain way. And it's marvelous. Anyway, I'll stop rimming ROM now. Cool. First in the chain, another Pro Q. High passing again. It's getting rid of all that shit. And there's probably some tone here that I don't like. Ooh. Yeah, it's rubbish. Yeah, it's there. Snares are just a bit of a pain in the arse for overtones like that. Next is a gate. Again, I'm not smashing the range here. This is just 15 dB or so. Because I don't actually mind a bit of bleed in the snare. A bit. But I don't want, cymbals 3 dB quieter than the snare, which they're not in this case, but it's just nice to have a bit of bleed. I think bleed is good on a drum kit sometimes. Next, API 550. Whoa, got some mental EQ here. Okay. All right, let's see how this sounds first. Sounds like a different snare. I'm clipping the input purposely here, by the way, before everyone goes, "Meh, you're smashing that fucking EQ." I know, because it sounds better when it's clipped. Okay, let's hear it without and then with. Let's see what I was trying to achieve here. Pretty thin sounding. Let's stick it in. I'm basically doing a massive smiley face EQ, boosting the low and boosting the tops as well with a shelf. Yeah. When I said I'd do a little with a lot, doesn't always apply. I'm doing a lot with a little here. I'm boosting 12 dB of 100 hertz. That is insane. On a shelf as well. I'm surprised I didn't actually put a high pass after that, because that must be doing not too bad. It's giving it some girth. I mean, look, there are no rules, right? So yeah, that's what I do with the snare. That is honestly fucking wild. Can't believe I did that shit. Hey, it works. Whatever. Cool. All right. There's no compression on the snare. Interesting. It's probably all been done on the mix bus. Okay. Toms. Yeah, like I said, I'm routing the top and bottom to of each tom to its own bus, just because I didn't want to bounce in place or anything like that. I wanted to have a bit more control. But like I said, the levels here are actually really good and they're already gated. So I just thought, fuck it, I'll set up a bus. Let's see what's going on here. They already sound really smashed to me. They sound like they've been compressed a lot on the way in. Looks like I'm just pulling out some 500. Yeah, I told you I like pulling out 500. That's literally it. That's all I'm doing. I imagine this is probably going to be the same for the mid as well. Yeah, I think I've literally just copied and pasted. No, it's a little bit higher. That's 540 hertz. Yeah, I find that mid-range on toms, that 500, that low mid-range, that sort of 500 to 700 range on toms is just awful. I really don't like it. So I tend to pull it out of a lot of stuff. Let's have a look at the floor here. Yeah, just doing it even more there. 9 dB at 500 hertz. No filtering or anything. I guess the toms just sound so good, I didn't really need to do much. Cool, close mics. So this is a bus of the toms, the kick and the snare. And I'm again adding and... So yeah, so I wasn't doing much here, just attenuation on the toms, but I'm doing some boosting here, again of 40k. It's called the air gain for a reason, because it makes everything sound pretty airy. So let's take a listen without first. And in. Arguably, that's just made the bleed worse. But I think that's going to help when it comes to the toms. Let's find a tom fill somewhere. Okay, yeah. Let's just loop this. Oh, sorry about that. Here we go. Without. Again, subtle, but it adds something. Overheads. God, this is boring. Sorry, guys. If you've already tuned out, good on you. If not, thank you for staying with me. I appreciate you. Okay, overheads. Again, pulling out some 500. Let's just hear how it sounds first, actually, so you can understand why I'm doing this. Okay, so this is without the EQ. and with this frequency here. It's all that shit that I'm getting rid of. It's just not what I want in overheads. I really just don't want it. So yeah, not doing actually any brightening again because there's all the, excitement and stuff is coming from the bus processing. Okay, next in the chain, 1176, fastest attack, fastest release. I imagine this is probably just to be able to get rid of the snare. Yeah, it's pretty much just attenuating that snare. The reason why is, excuse me, sorry, I've got a bit of a cold. Yeah, so snare in the overheads, not a fan because all you're doing is getting a delayed version of the snare and it just sounds shit in comparison to the close mic. So the idea is every time this snare drum hits, this compressor is just ducking out the snare in the overheads. It's not been sidechained or anything because there's signal from the snare. I just want to get rid of it a little bit, just poke it down. Okay, rooms. Just fab filter. What's going on? Yeah, same again. It looks like I'm doing some mid-side here actually. So yeah, so I'm getting rid of everything beneath 60 in the stereo field. Everything in mono is getting everything down to 0 hertz. And this is in stereo. So again, I'm pulling out 540 hertz in mono and stereo. It's just all that stuff. It's actually a bit more pronounced in these mics. You can hear the difference. It's quite drastic actually. It's all that. Makes it sound more hi-fi because essentially you're just boosting the low and the top instead of just cutting the middle. So yeah, cool. All right, so this is where it gets interesting. On every rock drum mix that I do, I'm always adding in the following 3 or 4 buses. First one is an AMS RMX 16, which is this guy, and it's always got this preset. Classic 80s toms, does what it says on the tin. Let me show you what it is. It's just a gated reverb, but it's super vibey. I just love the sound of it. And let's hear it soloed here. Oh, yeah, that was great, that. Yeah, really cool. Oh, I'm not sending anything, that's why I've turned all my sends off. Here we go. It looks like I'm sending the kick there as well. That's mental. Oh no, ignore me. Okay, so the idea with this is because it's a gated reverb, you're getting a big sounding reverb, but for a short amount of time. And I'm combining this with another reverb. This is an EMT 140 from UAD, which is a longer sort of 1.75 second plate reverb. The reason why I want that short reverb in there is because I feel like, this is hard to explain, but it's got a lot more body and weight. So that initial reverb that you hear is quite fat sounding. It's like an extension of the transient almost. So you're getting a bit more of body of snare and a bit more of room sound as well. The MT is sort of the opposite. It's a bit of a longer tail. It sounds more like a room mic, to be honest. Let me just play this to you. Like a very controlled room with no cymbals. But combined, they sound dope. No, they sound shit by themselves, but let's listen to the drums with these reverbs. Without. See, like when you take it out, all that excitement just goes. They're really just held in a space really nicely here. with these reverbs. And like I said, I'll always just use a combination of these two reverbs on drums. They just sound great. So this is without. Sounds good. Need some vibe. Here we go. Boom. Instant vibe. Amazing. Fantastic. Cool. All right, up next, some parallel distortion. I've only actually just started doing this recently. But I think he's called Tchad Blake. He's an American guy, but he lives in Wales and he's a mix engineer. He's done like all the Arctic Monkeys stuff, and I'm sure he's done hundreds of other records. But yeah, I used to have a Mix with the Masters account, and I saw him use parallel distortion all the time on those seminars, and it amazed me. So I thought I'd give it a go. So let's see what we've got. Another decapitator. And then first is a Pro Q. So the idea with this parallel distortion is mainly taking close mics. I think actually I'm only taking close. Oh no, I'm not. I'm talking pure shit. I'm taking a bit of everything except the rooms actually. So I've got kick, snare, toms, overheads. So it's kind of close mics. And I'm just filtering it out. Again, so the reason why is because I know that when it hits this decapitator, all the low frequency stuff is just going to get smashed. And it's not really going to distort the cymbals and the snare in the same way. And similarly with the high frequencies, I think when they get distorted, they can just sound really abrasive and harsh. So, in fact, let's do an A-B. So this is without the filtering before the decapitator. So the kick is just getting absolutely destroyed. And this is with the filter. We're getting more like throats from the snare. That more sort of like 200-300 range is getting compressed and distorted. Again, I'm using this P style thingy here on the distortion. So yeah, obviously that sounds terrible by itself, but again, combined with the drums, it just adds a little bit. So I'll play it without first, and then I'll add it in. Okay, and with. You're getting that, like that sort of throaty, boingy sound from the snare. It's really hard to explain rather. Just adds vibe. I hate using the word vibe, but it really does add pure vibes. Okay. For those of you who have never used this for parallel compression, do it straight away. Just parallel compress the shit out of everything, and then make sure you're using this plugin. This channel here is, I'm actually taking a direct send from the drum bus here. So this is compressing everything except for the effects. So I'm just taking a copy of this drum bus and then smashing the shit out of it with this compressor. So let's hear how it sounds. Oh, excuse me. Some might say that's too much. Fuck those guys. This channel's actually doing quite a lot of the heavy lifting in this drum sound as well. Let's hear it without. With. Now that I look back, I might actually just reduce this threshold. But I didn't, and I've had some good feedback about this drum sound, so I don't want to change anything. And that's it. That is the drum sound. I'm just pulling out a bit of 85 here on the master drums. So yeah, basically what I do is once I've got my drum bus and all my effects, I then route all of these to bus 11, and it's just so if I want to attenuate the whole level of all the drums, I can do it on one fader. It's kind of like a VCA sort of thing that you might find on a live console. So yeah, that's it. So in summary, process is levels and panning, bus everything in the way that I find fit. Top down, so all my processing on this bus here, then do some channel processing, add effects like reverb, distortion, parallel compression, route that to another bus, get rid of some 85 hertz, and Bob's your fanny, mate. Cool. So I hope you enjoyed that. Bloody hell, 36 minutes. That's insane. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, tell me, because honestly, I won't do it again. There's enough shit on the internet as it is, so no one needs me talking bollocks. But yeah, if you did like it, please do let me know. And I'll do another one. So yeah, fucking sound. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I hope you found some of this useful. I'd also like to hear some feedback, because if what I'm saying is total marmalade, then I need to know. It's all about getting feedback and just improving step by step. So yeah, thanks again. Much love. Fucking sound.